Today, it's a triple threat match on OTR as we go one-on-two with Canadian wrestling superstars, Edge and Christian. They tell us about their struggles.
You're driving on these small little winter roads that are basically just forest.
Jay falls through the ice.
Yeah.
And talk honestly about their careers in a way that will keep you riveted.
Have you ever juiced? I have, yeah.
It's Edge and Christian on OTR next.
Off the Record with Michael Landsberg is brought to you by the Cake Steakhouse and Bar. For great steaks, good friends, see you tonight.
I don't know who booked today's show. Usually these things are one-on-ones, but today we kind of got a little handicap match going. I kind of feel like Triple H sitting here. You know what I mean?
Little menage a
You guys
trois.
hate Triple H, right?
Hate him?
We'll get back to that one later on. Let's start with something a little bit softer. Great to welcome to the show, by the way, two very famous Canadians. We're very proud of what you guys have done, Edge and Christian, for the WWE. And what you might not know is these guys are great buddies for a long time. Grew up together in Orangeville. Take us back to the decision to break up as a team. How tough was that, and how did it unfold?
Well, basically unfolded because, you know, I was just tired of carrying him for so long, you know. But just
Yeah,
no.
I do get a little heavy. I was getting older, so I got up to about 250. His back, I mean, look at him.
Yeah.
He can't
Look at how short I sit in this
So
chair.
you guys broke up, what, 3 years ago?
Yeah, about
roughly.
3 years ago.
Now, to put that in context, you had been together for how long before that? I mean, I'm talking traveling across the country before the WWE, and then at the very top level. For how long were you together?
I mean, if you want to take it further back than that, we met in grade 6, and from that point on, we basically been attached at the hip. Yeah. So he had a ninja star. And for some reason, I thought that was the coolest. He wore these bad tennis wristbands.
Which are back in style, by the way.
Which are back in style, but at that point weren't. And these bad Converse high tops. But I looked past all of that because he had the ninja star.
So you guys have been buddies since you were 11 years old?
Yeah.
Or maybe you were 14 in grade 6, so I'm not sure.
No, I
shouldn't
at that
know
point.
it.
It was a couple years later.
We from that point, and we went to college together, lived in college together. I started training a little bit before Jay did, and then once he started wrestling school, we basically hit the road together, and you name it, we went to Japan together. We struggled through, we wrestled in barns in Tennessee in front of 6 people sitting
all
in bales
across
of hay.
Canada, so we've been
Fell through
everywhere.
lakes
So
together.
tell me an example of sort of typical traveling across Canada, you know, in the levels below the WWE. Give me an example of what life was like
Our
there.
travel wasn't typical by any means.
No.
What we did was not normal, even for the indie wrestling lifestyle. We drove across lakes and fell through them in northern Manitoba.
Basically,
Hold on. You drove across lakes.
Yeah, and basically what it was is we'd have 2 vans, and one van would have the ring and all of our luggage and wrestling gear, and the other van would be all the wrestlers. So they'd be following each other, and you know, you're driving on these small little winter roads that are basically just forest that was cleared away by a bulldozer, and then the snow falls, and there's your road.
Yeah,
So,
but you see, you're talking about a road. He's talking about driving across the lake.
yeah,
Well,
but you'd
get
eventually
to
get to
Down
it.
lake, don't
You go over the lake.
that. You actually fell.
Well, what
one
had
point,
happened
yeah.
was at some point I had the first driving duty. We were trying to get back to Winnipeg. We're 24 hours north of Winnipeg. So I took the first driving duty. I got Pantera blaring on the stereo. I see this hole in a lake. Everybody's asleep. So I'm smacking myself. I'm like, that can't be right. So I'm pumping the brakes, get it stopped. Our promoter, Tony Candela, who's a one of a kind, says, it's not bad. I'll drive through. So he decides he's going to drive through. I said, have at it, boss. Throw in the keys. We dropped.
First way he said he walked out, and you could see the like, it was about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So all we had literally was the light of the moon, was the only light that we had in the headlights. So he goes out and gets this big bar out of the back, and he's walking. You got to picture this little Italian guy. He's about 5'3", big pop belly, and he's walking out with a bar like this, trying to see how deep it is.
Okay,
I can make it. And we're like, oh God.
So he drops, we drop, we're driving along, we make it through, but the ring van decided to take what was supposed to be a clear path. They dropped through, water flying up everywhere, it's sinking. So now,
right to the frame.
Rhino, who sees this, bolts, Shemp looking for cheese type thing. I mean, he just takes off back the wrong way. Jay falls through the ice.
Yeah. Up to my waist.
And I started laughing. He pulls himself out. Rhino gets his mental compass, comes back the other way, blasts him, and I think that's where the gore was first created. Jay goes spinning, they get up, we finally push the truck out, and we got back. But there's times like that, it's minus 50 outside, and for some reason it still wasn't frozen. And you kind of, you don't second guess what you're doing, but you look back now and laugh.
Yeah. And at the time, you think,
have to.
there's a good
Was there
possibility
the
they
sense
die.
back then that you guys together specifically, forget the others, that you guys were doing it together, that you were a team above and beyond what might have happened in the ring, but as two guys?
I think that, you know, like I said, we've become closer than friends. You know, I mean, we're like brothers, really. I mean, we've known each other since 6th grade, and we've
Well, on TV
basically,
we're brothers, but we basically are.
So, I mean,
We get
it
along
is like
brothers.
that, you know, I
We
mean,
cut
it's
each
always,
other off like brothers.
yeah, just like that. Shut up.
Finish each other's thoughts like married couples?
Yeah.
You get a bottle of wine in us and maybe we could become a married couple, I don't know.
Well, fortunately, this is a dry set, so that's not going to happen. So tell me about your breakup then in the WWE. I know that you had been approached by Vince for a while, where he was asking you to do it, and you guys hesitated.
We wanted to do it at the right time, and like anything, you know, we didn't want it to be stale. We had a good thing going, and I think we really helped each other as far as coming out of our shells, creating a character for ourselves, feeling comfortable talking in the ring, and stuff like that. And but on the other side of that, like I said, you don't want to become stale. Where it's, okay, we've seen the act a million times, and like I said, it was so good what we had, and we just wanted people to remember it as a good thing, that we wanted to kind of bow out with it when the time was right.
Yeah, that's the way we both felt. They'd come to us a few times before. We both felt that we got to show what we could do as a team. We knew what we could do. Let our personalities come out. We're jackasses, so let us show that. We finally got to show that, won the belt 7 times, and the most in history. It's like, okay, now what do we do?
But you mentioned something interesting, that you fed it off each other to gain confidence, right? Because you two guys are not like the biggest extroverts in the world. In particular, you, right, Christian? Like you're not a guy who could walk into a ring and feel comfortable immediately. You drew some of your strength from the fact that you were with your buddy.
Sure. I mean, when I first got there, I was always confident in my wrestling ability, but before I had gotten to WWE, I hadn't done a lot of promos in the ring or backstage, you know, interview segments or whatever it was. I hadn't done a lot of that, so to have him beside me and to be able to, I'd say something small, then he'd say something small, and then you get that comfort zone where it's like, okay, you know what, I can do this and I can do it well.
We played off each other just like we would on a 3-hour car drive to Grand Forks, North Dakota.
So one of the things that both of you have done is take risks in the ring, and that's why you missed, right, like a year and a half of wrestling with a broken neck. You've got back problems right now as we talk at this point. Go back to 3 weeks ago. You were wrestling Chris Jericho, right, Christian?
Yeah.
And we watched this and we looked at it and went, wow, that looks like the kind of danger that you would have taken, you know, maybe a couple of years ago. Walk me through this and what you're thinking.
Okay. Well, here I'm charging out. I'm about to get his shoulder in the stomach there, backdrop.
Yikes.
And yeah, that actually.
You're a dumbass.
I didn't mean for that.
Oh, sorry, what'd you say?
He's a dumbass. No, you know what it was? I was in the back and I jumped on. What's he doing? You know, one of those deals.
Yeah.
It was one of those moments.
It was,
same when Lita dove through and landed
you know,
on her head.
What happened there actually was when I was getting backdropped over, and I knew I wanted it to be high. And then when I got up there, I was like, well, should I just take this straight down or should I flip over to my back? And by the time, I didn't realize that how fast I was going. So by the time I was trying to decide, it was too late. I'd come down, you know, kind of awkward, but luckily knocked the wind out of me a little bit, but it wasn't too bad. It could have been a lot worse.
Terrific show relating to two guys who have related to each other on so many different levels. Let me ask you this. Do you miss tables, ladders, and chairs, those matches?
Not at all.
Really?
No, I don't miss them at all, and I don't plan on ever doing them again. It's how we made our name, and at the time felt we needed to do it that way. Yeah, yikes. Felt we needed to do that to get noticed, but I think it's definitely taken a toll on all 6 guys involved. But that's what we felt we needed to do. You know, some guys can do it posing. Some guys can do it drinking a beer and talking trash. We felt we needed to be daredevils and do something that at that time nobody else was doing.
Right, and nobody else was doing it because it was damn risky, right?
Yeah,
and as you found out,
stupid.
like, you paid the price for it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to actually doing one of those matches again, but I'm not at the same rate we were doing them before. I mean, and the timing and everything of it would have
So
to
what
be
you're
right.
saying is that Edge has gone soft, is that you do it.
I don't want to
Readily admit it.
On that note, we go to break. A lot more with Edge and Christian on OTR. OTR with Edge and Christian, two guys who have suffered debilitating injuries, right, through the risks that you have taken in the ring. But one thing I can say here is that you both appear to be very mentally healthy.
Yeah, and plus it hasn't affected my good looks at all either. So.
You got to start off with good looks to have them affected.
Yeah, that's true.
So what you're saying hasn't affected it, but that's
All right,
not saying
have a
where
good
you were, where you are.
personality.
There you go.
But mentally, you know, I see two guys as being normal guys. You know, you talk about life, you have a job, you have an idea and an instinct of how your job relates to your life. Have you helped each other stay mentally healthy?
I think so. I think we've helped keep each other grounded, as well as our family and the other friends that we surround
What does
ourselves
that mean,
with.
keep each other grounded?
I just think, I mean, we're always busting on each other and stuff like that. And it's just basically the same things that we did to each other when we were kids, you know what I mean? And we keep the same friends that we had when we were kids growing up and keep in contact with them. And I mean, I think that just helps to keep you grounded and
you
keep you
just
normal.
hear the horror stories of other guys, not necessarily in our industry, but the Randy Mosses or what have you.
But in your industry, you don't have to look far for examples of people in your industry that lose perspective. And in particular, it seems tough to survive after wrestling. What did you think of Joni Lauer? She just melted down on Howard Stern, and she's clearly troubled in her life.
I didn't hear it. It's sad, really. You know what I mean? Because I mean, she had a great career. She had something that was different. You know.
She had something different. She
that,
flushed it down the toilet.
Yeah.
And you don't get the Surreal Life up here, but I watched her on the Surreal Life interacting with Mini-Me and just thought, this is embarrassing to watch. It was one of those, I felt uncomfortable watching it. And it's a shame. But the way I look at it is if you can keep a level head in this business, it's possible.
It's possible, but not everyone has done it, right? What do you think I mean, here's a guy who was right at the top, Jake the Snake Roberts, right? Jake Roberts was the biggest in the business at one time, and he was just charged with drug possession. Again, when you look at that, what are your thoughts?
Well, it's like any walk of life. I don't think it's the industry. I think in any walk of life, you're going to have screw-ups.
See, that's the easy thing to say. I'm not sure that that's true. I'm not sure that your industry
is.
I mean,
I think your industry is a lot more mentally and socially risky than if you were in
mentally,
accounting.
if you're mentally weak. But I think there's mentally weak people in any industry you look at.
Biggest star ever, Stone Cold.
Yep.
Doesn't seem to be in great emotional or mental condition.
Well, I think relationship-wise, maybe not. But you know, from a lot of people have problems with relationships, not just in this industry. But mind you, this industry is tough on relationships because you're always gone. I'm proof of that.
Yeah.
Explain that, because people don't know.
Well, I've been divorced once in my second marriage. So, I mean, it plays a toll. But if it's a strong enough relationship, nothing can get in between.
You guys were buddies with Test as well, right?
Yes.
And Test is currently injured, had the same surgery that you had?
Yeah.
And he was fired by the WWE. What did you think when you heard that?
I thought it was pretty cold. Thought it was pretty cold.
I was shocked, you know, just, I think he was shocked, obviously, but it's one of those things, you don't expect it, and you know.
Yeah, you know, he's got 6 months left to recuperate.
Right. As a friend, what'd you do when you heard that? Because we're all talking about being buddies, right?
Gave him a call and, you know, just said, how you feeling? You know.
I still talk to him every week, so.
You still talk to him every week?
Yeah.
I live 6 minutes from him, so I mean, we're all still buddies. It's not going to change.
Is there anything you can do can you lobby for him to come back when the time's appropriate? He's not ready to go now.
Honestly, it would be up to him.
Yeah.
If he wants to come back, then yeah. But I don't know if he'd want to. I don't know if he needs to. You know, there's other markets open. There's Japan, there's things like that.
Right.
And I think more than anything, maybe his pride got stung a little bit, and I don't know if he would. And if he would want to, great.
And we're talking candidly about a guy who was fired by your company, and you're saying you're disappointed. And that's one of the things, for the last 7 or 8 years, that wrestling has done really well, which is open its books and say, hey, you know what, whatever happens, we're going to try to reveal it to the public because, as some have said, there's no such thing as bad publicity. It's always good for business. What was your sense on the Ric Flair Mick Foley thing? They're backstage, right? And Rick goes to shake Mick Foley's hand. Mick doesn't want to shake his hand, and Rick punches him. Now, were you there for that, and why did that happen?
I think we were actually both in the room. I'm not sure what I'm sure there was some sort of history there. They have a long history, and I'm not sure what the circumstances were building up to it. But you know, I saw Mick walk in, but not just thinking it was any other day in catering, and heard a little.
I think it stemmed from the books, and I actually have a book out, by the way, that I penned myself.
You were on the show promoting it already once.
Anyway, I think cheap
was
plug.
a soft cover coming out?
Yeah, pretty soon. Yeah,
soft topic, soft cover.
Yeah, I think it stemmed from the books and what they said about each other in the books. I came in to catering. I was sitting there watching the TV. Mick came in, gave him a hug. Good to see you. Kept watching the TV, and then all of a sudden I hear this commotion. I turn around, and they're yelling at each other. And apparently that was the deal. Is Mick said, "Will you sign my book?" Flair put out his hand. He said, "I don't want to shake your hand," and whatever happened from there, don't know. To be honest, don't really care.
Is WWE still as willing to say, let's use that as a storyline, let's use that as an angle? Because like 7 years ago,
they'd do it.
What's that?
If they would do it, but I don't know if they would.
On that note, we go to break, having a great time with two great Canadian boys from Southern Ontario. More OTR in a moment. Sitting here with a couple of veterans of the wrestling business now, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, are we grizzled vets?
No, you're not grizzled
Well,
veterans
this is what
yet.
I was saying before is I think our big toe is in grizzled territory.
Okay.
Grizzly, maybe.
I'm trying, yeah, we're trying to get the grizzled.
So I mean, wrestling always has ups and downs, right? And when we started the show and when I first met you guys, it was clearly a high. I mean, we're talking late 90s when wrestling re-exploded onto the scene. It's not doing quite as well right now. You guys have seen it all. You've seen it from many different perspectives. What would you to take it to the next level?
For me, wrestling is a cyclical business, always has been. I grew up being a fan of this. We both did, and we would go to shows when it was packed with Hulk Hogan and Kamala. We would go to shows when there was 1,500 people at Maple Leaf Gardens. It goes up, it goes down. I don't know if there's a rhyme or reason. I think one person will come and explode, like Austin did,
Which
like
is what
Hogan
you
did,
need,
like
right?
Brock did.
You got to have the guy.
Yep.
And you guys are tremendous technical wrestlers. I mean, that's one of the things that's always admired, your technical abilities, your abilities now with the microphone. You guys are great, but I think it would be a big leap, even sitting here with you, to say either one of you guys is going to take wrestling, you know, to the stratosphere once again. But a guy like Brock Lesnar, there was the feeling that maybe he could have done it. Then he left to go play football. Now word is that he wants back in. Can he come back in the locker room and have credibility?
Maybe credibility. I wouldn't have anything against him, but I think guys who made him one of the players might.
But guys like you worked
so.
hard to get him over, right?
Yeah,
and then he took off. Did you feel betrayed?
Actually, I was on Raw, he was on SmackDown, so I didn't even really see him the months leading up to when he had left.
We don't get SmackDown in Canada, so
oh,
okay.
sorry, but
I'm kidding.
I think that if I was in that locker room on that side, and I was one of the guys that put him over, I definitely would have.
I mean, to me, honestly, he wasn't going to be a guy that was going to make it explode. To me.
I don't think so, yeah.
He didn't have the verbal ability to do it. He didn't have the personality to do it. Physically, he was awesome.
Impressive.
And you need
so
both.
you looked at it and kind of thought they're hanging too much on this guy.
I knew they were.
Really?
So it wasn't a big deal to me when he left. I didn't think it was a huge gaping hole. Writing-wise, he was a huge part of the show, but I didn't see it as being, okay, there's a Stone Cold. That wasn't the case.
What did you think when you first
try
saw
and look too hard for the next Stone Cold, you're not going to find it. That's all there is to it. It's got to happen. And I think RVD, when he first came in, could have possibly, if he was used correctly, and I think John Cena, possibly, with the gimmick. I don't know how long it would last, though, with that gimmick.
Randy Orton, did they put too much into him? Too many hopes early on?
I don't think so. I think Randy has a lot of ability. He's got a big future. I think that it's just he did great when he was, you know, a heel, and now that he's turned more of a babyface. It's harder to try to get your feet under you, and then really, you know, get the fans. It's so hard to be cheered these days.
You know, for years, right, it was Vince's company. Like if I said, whose company is this? There's not one guy who's not going to say Vince, even if you don't follow wrestling. Is it Triple H's company now?
Still Vince's. Still Vince's. It still boils down.
What's the sense of Triple H to guys? Well, you specifically. What's your take on him? Because he really is. He's the lightning rod now for a lot of great things and for controversy and for a lot of criticism and for a lot of jealousy for sure.
I think he's going to get the criticism just because of, you know, he's married to the boss's daughter. You know, he's you know, said that he's a part of creative and stuff like that. So I mean, that comes with the territory, right? I mean, he's going to get criticism whether it's warranted or not. So.
Yeah, there's always going to be, when you get put yourself in that position, everybody's going to fire on you. I mean, especially the audience, especially if they don't like what they're seeing, or even if they do like what they're seeing. There's always going to be people that are critical of it. What do you do? I guess you just deflect it. So
it's all about finding the next guy, and almost always the next guy is a big guy, right? Physically. Now, why aren't you bigger? Why don't you start juicing? Steroids. I mean, it'd make you bigger, make you stronger. Guys in your business do it.
I honestly, for me, my style, I don't think it would help me to be much bigger than what I am.
But
I get a lot of.
I mean, that's a fallacy, because you see a guy like Shawn Michaels or a guy like Bret Hart who went to the top of this industry, and they were, I mean, athletic guys, in shape guys, but not 300 pounds.
Yeah.
Right, but also I believe that there are many guys that you see in the ring, and history has documented that have been juicing, right?
Well, I think, yeah. I mean, in any sport.
Wrestling in any sport, but wrestling's the one sport that doesn't deny it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's the only industry where, okay, it's there, nobody really talks about it.
But if you wanted to do it, if you wanted to get bigger, you're not tested, right? That would be your choice.
I mean, they have random testing like any.
But it would be.
sport.
Now, is that testing to see if you're doing it, or to encourage you to do it if you're not?
No, I mean, I don't think they
No, they
never
don't
encourage
encourage
anything like that.
that. I was
Never.
kidding.
So.
Okay. I was kidding. Just
I've
a
never
joke.
been encouraged, but yeah.
Have you ever juiced?
I have. Yeah, yeah.
And why'd you stop? If you stopped.
I didn't like the way I got to the point where I didn't feel comfortable in the ring. To me, I wanted to be able to just go, and I would get winded too quick, and I didn't feel good. There was too many things
You ever
going on
tried?
that I didn't feel good.
Oh, I didn't say now. I mean, clearly there's two guys on this set that aren't juicing right now. Have you ever tried it?
What's that? What?
Okay, let's go to break. As we go to break, we want to know your thoughts and your questions. And I just had a decent one. It worked pretty well. Christian, this one's for you. Maybe a little easier. Who are your favorite writers and bookers? How much input do you have into your storylines? Why don't you answer that one, OTR return. For you, Edge, and again, you can answer it later on. No, I'll read it for you. You don't have to. You're moving your lips. How much of the frustrated wrestler being hosed by Triple H is based on reality?
Hosed.
We'll talk about that next. You know, this is so much fun. Two genuine guys sitting here that grew up together, that have fought battles together. Edge and Christian. Great to see you guys. Adam and Jay, more importantly. And congratulations on your success.
Thank you.
Nothing
Thanks.
Canadians
Thanks.
like more to see than to see Canadian do well in the United States, as you guys have.
That's what I always say. It's like no matter where we go in this country, it's like our hometown. It's like hometown boy done good type thing.
I
So.
always seem to get booed though.
You always seem to get booed?
Yeah.
Yeah, I seem to.
I do too now.
And with two good-looking guys like you, I don't know how anyone could possibly boo you.
Have you looked really closely?
Yeah, I was. It was sarcastic. It was sarcasm. Christian,
Yeah.
writers and bookers, who do you like?
I think we were kind of talking about this during the break, and it was
Just so you know, we never talk about what we talk about during the break.
okay, we weren't.
Never. We weren't talking about anything during the break.
Exactly.
Okay, well, maybe I was just talking to myself.
Yeah, right.
But
So,
sometimes, like I said, there's so many people collaborate on it. Sometimes you don't even know.
Really?
You know who writes what or whatever. I mean, there's a kind of a little committee.
There's a team.
But I do when my promos and my backstage skits and things like that. A lot of times I collaborate with a guy named Brian Gewirtz, who.
cool.
He was instrumental. in the
And
whole
you,
thing,
final
I see.
comment, the question for
Oh,
you?
the frustrated. I mean, there's definitely truths in any character that works. You take truths that you actually feel. I feel I deserve the world title. I feel I deserve a world title shot. I feel all of that stuff. I take it and turn it way up. That's all.
I feel one other thing. Our time is up, but I love seeing you guys continued success. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having me.
Michael Landsberg's clothing provided by Victorinox, Swiss Army. Available at Sporting Life in Toronto and better specialty stores across Canada.
Welcome.
Look at how short I sit in this
So
chair.
you guys broke, what, 3 years ago?
Yeah, about 3
Roughly.
years ago.
Now, to put that in context, you had been together for how long before that? I mean, I'm talking traveling
Yeah.
across the country before the WWE, and then at the very top level. For how long were you together?
I mean, if
Yeah.
you want to take it further back than that, we met in grade 6, and from that point on, we basically
Really?
been attached at the hip. So he had a ninja star. And for some reason, I thought that was the coolest. He wore these bad tennis wristbands.
Which are back
on his
in style,
football
by the
jersey,
way.
which are back in style, but at that point weren't. And these bad Converse high tops. But I looked past all of that because he had the ninja star.
So you guys have
Yeah.
been buddies since you were 11 years old?
Yeah.
Or maybe
Yeah.
you were 14 in grade 6, so I'm not sure.
No, it didn't fail
I
at
shouldn't
that
know
point.
that.
It was a couple years later.
We from that point, and we went to college together, lived in college together. I started training a little bit before Jay did, and then once he started wrestling school, we basically hit the road together, and you name it, we went to Japan together. We struggled through, we wrestled in barns in Tennessee in front of 6 people sitting
all
in bales
across
of hay.
Canada.
And
So it's We've been
Fell through
everywhere.
lakes
So
together.
tell me an example of sort of typical traveling across Canada, you know, in the levels below the WWE. Give me an example of what life was like
Our
there.
travel wasn't typical by any means.
No.
What we did was not normal, even for the indie wrestling lifestyle. We drove across lakes and fell through them in northern Manitoba.
Basically,
Hold on. You drove across lakes.
Yeah, and basically what it was is we'd have two vans, and one van would have the ring and all of our luggage and wrestling gear, and the other van would be all the wrestlers. So they'd be following each other, and you know, you're driving on these small little winter.
Friends, see you tonight.
I don't know who booked today's show. Usually these things are one-on-ones, but today we kind of got a little handicap match going. I kind of feel like Triple H sitting here. You know what I mean?
Little menage a
You guys
trois.
hate Triple H, right?
Hate him?
We'll get back
Hate
to
'em.
that
Can't
one
stand
later
'em.
on. Let's start with something a little bit softer. Great to welcome to the show, by the way, two very famous Canadians. We're very proud of what you guys have done, Edge and Christian, for the WWE. And what you might not know is these guys are great buddies for a long time. Grew up together in Orangeville. Take us back to the decision to break up as a team. How tough was that, and how did it unfold?
Well, basically unfolded because, you know, I was just tired of carrying him for so long, you know. But just
Yeah,
no.
I do get a little heavy. I was getting older,
But,
so I got up to about 250. His back, I mean, look at him.
Yeah.
He can't.
I mean,
Today, it's a triple threat match on OTR as we go one-on-two with Canadian wrestling superstars, Edge and Christian. They tell us about their struggles.
you're driving on these small little winter roads that are basically just forest.
Jay falls through the ice.
Yeah.
And talk honestly about their careers in a way that will keep you riveted.
Have you ever juiced?
I have, yeah.
It's Edge and Christian on OTR next.
Off the Record with Michael Landsberg is brought to you by the Cake Steakhouse and Bar. For great steaks, good
Roads are basically just forest that was cleared away by a bulldozer, and then the snow falls, and there's your road.
Yeah,
So-
but see, you're talking about a road. He's talking about driving across the lake.
yeah,
We'll
but
get
you'd
to
eventually
that.
get to it. You'd eventually get to
down
it.
lake, don't they?
You go over the lake.
Okay, you actually failed.
Well,
At
what
one
had
point,
happened
yeah.
was at some point I had the first driving duty. We were trying to get back to Winnipeg. We're 24 hours north of Winnipeg. So I took the first driving duty. I got Pantera blaring on the stereo. I see this hole in a lake. Everybody's asleep. So I'm smacking myself. I'm like, that can't be right. So I'm pumping the brakes, get it stopped. Our promoter, Tony Candela, who's a one of a kind, says, it's not bad. I'll drive through. So he decides he's going to drive through. I said, have at it, boss. Throw in the keys. We
First
dropped.
way he said it, he walked out, and you could see the like, it was about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So all we had literally was